The following presentation is brought to you by the Realm Network.
Chicken head, chicken feet, chicken necks is all I eat.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a bucket full of chicken necks. I'm off the road after a tough week of travel. I went to the UK, then I went to Dublin, Ireland. I came home for 2 days. I turned around, went to New Jersey for the weekend. I'm finally home. I have the travel behind me. I'm real glad about that. A lot to discuss today on Chicken Necks, but before I do, let me give proper credit, proper shout out to our sponsor, Kayfabe Commentaries. You can find them at kayfabecommentaries.com. Going to read you the little ad first for their newest DVD that they have out. Then I'm going to tell you a little something about them because I did a new DVD with Kayfabe Commentaries and Sean Oliver while I was down in New Jersey for the Legends Convention. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Let me tell you about their new product first. The acclaimed shoot series Timeline, the history of WCW from Kayfabe Commentaries, has just added a new addition to the historical series. The year 1985 is the start point for the series, and it's just been released starring the man that began a rocket ride to the babyface stratosphere. I'm talking about Magnum TA. Before taking on the identity of WCW, Jim Crockett Promotions would get great national exposure on WTBS after buying the time slot from Vince McMahon for $1 million. Their stars were now stars all over the country, and our guest for this edition was becoming the biggest babyface in the company at the time. Magnum TA has just arrived from Mid-South and was taking the territory by storm, heading towards the U.S. title and becoming the number one challenger for Flair. He'd feud with Tully Blanchard, battle Flair, and help JCP begin its transition to what would become known as WCW. This is the big one, 1985, Tully in the I Quit match, Baby Doll and Dusty, Flair and Magnum, bashes, bunkhouses, and the JCP debut of Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express. Head back to 1985 in JCP WCW at Kayfabe Commentaries. Our shoots are not shareholder approved. And what Kayfabe Commentaries means is this. Their shoots are shoots. These are not the shoots that you're seeing on the WWE network. These controlled shoots that are being edited where the network, of course, is seen in the righteous light, as seen by the Eric Bischoff recent sit-down with JBL. It's self-serving. The shoot interviews, WWE Network, they're going to mold and craft and shape to come out in a way that's going to put the WWE over. That's what they're designed for. Kayfabe Commentaries, they're a third party. They're a top-notch organization. Sean Oliver is the owner of this company, kayfabecommentaries.com. I've done now, I think this is the third or fourth DVD I did for them. I just did the Timeline 1998 for the WWE. And let me tell you something. They were supposed to send me a script before I went to do the interview so I could look over it. I didn't get the script before I left for the airport. So while I was literally standing on the line in security, I got the text from Sean with the script for Kayfabe Commentaries, the Timeline 1998. I'm reading through the questions, and I'm reading, and I'm reading, and I'm reading, and finally I see that this thing is going on long. So I'm like, let me see how long this document is. So I go to the bottom, and it was 88 pages. They literally put together an entire book of questions to ask me for their new commentary. These guys just doing unbelievable and a fantastic job. I cannot say enough about kayfabecommentaries.com. And again, I'm not saying that because they sponsor the show. I have a long history with these guys. They have an unbelievable library, so professional. Hey, listen, anybody that brings Vampiro in and is going to deal with Vampiro for an entire weekend, that's professional. But we're going to talk about that for a second. Before I get to legends, there's a couple of topics I want to talk about. I got to start, with the baseball playoffs. I'm an avid baseball fan. I did not finish in the money in either one of my leagues this year. I finished fourth place in the Who's on First League, and I finished fifth place in the TNA League. And I got to tell you something. This is the first year in fantasy baseball that I lost interest. I lost my steam. I don't know, maybe about mid-season. I kind of just got tired, and I kind of just got bored with it. I mean, I'm doing a lot of podcasting now. The brand has become my top priority. If you want to win fantasy baseball, it's like a 24-hour job. And quite frankly, I just didn't have the time. So fantasy baseball is over. Now I'm really concentrating on the playoffs. I predicted last night that the Astros would beat the Yankees. And I got to tell you, man, after watching the Yankees last night, no offense to Irish Pat, Simon Diamond, but I don't know how they got there in the first place. I mean, they look like a team that should have been, a middle of the pack team, not a playoff contender. I know they lost to Shera, and that really hurt them. But, man, this looked like an old team. They could not smell Keuchel last night. This team needs to totally revamp in the offseason. I mean, you could see the Astros are a young team, an up-and-coming team, and the Yankees look like a bunch of old men. And that's what you got. One and done, 3-0, a feeble attempt. Big game today with the Pirates and the Cubs. I'm going with the Pirates for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're home. And number two, I can't see them losing a wild card playoff game at home 2 years in a row. Last year, they lost to the Giants. I predicted Bumgarner would beat them. I knew in a one-game series that the Giants had the advantage. I don't see the Pirates losing 2 wild card games in a row at home. I mean, I just don't. I like the Cubs a lot. And the Cubs can really be the dark horse in this playoff series, but I'm not seeing it tonight. Bill, I'm gonna pull for the Cubs. Billy Corgan, my buddy, is a big Cubs fan. They haven't been there in a long time. They really have a nice team. Jake Arrieta had an unbelievable year this year. May win the Cy Young Award. I'm going to be pulling for the Cubs, but I'm going to go with the Pirates tonight. A couple of things I want to talk about before I get to the convention is I thought I was in hog heaven yesterday. Listen, man, everybody knows. I do my shopping at Goodwill. I can't tell you the last time I bought a new piece of clothing off of the rack anywhere. I don't do this. This shirt right here, this beauty, I got at Goodwill. They're usually a shirt like this is usually $1.99, but I do all my shopping at Goodwill. I'm always checking it out. I went there yesterday. I found an unbelievable find. There is on DVD, there's the old Dean Martin variety series where Dean Martin brings on, the biggest guests in the history of entertainment. And I always wanted to buy, this is one of those infomercials where it's like $19.99 a piece, whatever the case may be. I always wanted to buy this. I'm such a mark for the Dean Martin roast, Dean Martin variety, Dean Martin with the Rack Pack. I'm such a mark for this old school stuff. Why? Because you don't get it anymore. You don't see it anymore. Guys like Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, these were great, legendary entertainers. Who do you have today? Nicki Minaj, the goof on the View who just left his wife Lambert. Who are big stars today in movies, in music? Bradley Cooper, he's a big star. No, they were iconic back then. They will live on forever. Dean Martin will live on forever. So they had the almost like the entire series. I think there's 28 episodes. They had 22 of the 28. They had them brand new and sealed, and they were $3.99 a piece. So 22 times 4 is $88. I don't have that kind of money right now, guys. I'll be honest with you. So I wasn't paying the $88. So I call the manager over. I listen. I watch porn stars. I watch Chumley. I know what I'm doing. I know how to get prices down. I call the manager over. I'm like, listen, nobody's going to buy these. I mean, come on, the Dean Martin variety series. You got 22 episodes here. They're going to sit here, yada, yada, yada. What do you want for the whole shebang? So, the woman contemplated this, that, and the other thing, blah, 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 turned around with a price of $25 for the 22. That wasn't good enough for me. I told her I'd give her $1 a piece. So I whittled it down another $3. But anyway, I got these timeless DVDs of the Dean Martin Variety Show, $1 a piece, 22, not even open. I started watching them yesterday. I got to tell you, man, one of the ones I watched yesterday was Dean Martin with Anne Margaret. If Anne Margaret is before your time, please Google Anne Margaret and see who Anne Margaret is. Beautiful, beautiful actress, singer, entertainer back in the day. The way her and Dino were singing together, I'm watching this and I'm saying to myself, there's no way he did not do her. There is no way Dean Martin did not do Anne Margaret. The interaction, but again, this is the stuff that I love. This is the stuff that I absolutely thrive on. Let's update it because there are some stars today, not many. But Rihanna is coming out on the new edition of Vanity Fair. You know how I feel about Rihanna. I'm absolutely in love with her, mad about it, crazy about her. I think she's gorgeous. I think she's a great entertainer. I think she could do it all. Beautiful photo spread in Vanity Fair coming out now. She also goes into detail about Chris Brown and the relationship and why she went back, which was very, very interesting to see. But I think reading this, it's clear that she's done with Chris Brown. She learned the lesson. It's over and done with. That's what I got out of it anyway. Let's hope that's the case. But check out the pictures online. Just some really, really beautiful pictures of Rihanna. Listen, I got to tell you, I'm looking at myself here on the screen, and I don't know what's going on with my hair anymore. I always I want to grow out my hair. I always want to grow out my hair. Back in maybe about 91 or so, right around the time my son Will was born, my hair literally was at least down to the bottom of my neck. I could run the fingers through it in the back. It was really curly. I had some nice length to it. I love my hair like that. I love growing out my hair. I don't know what it is about having a long hair. I like having a long hair. So every time I say I'm going to grow it out, I'm going to grow it out, I'm going to have the long hair. But then you get into the puffy period. And you know what I'm talking about with the puffy period, where it's starting to grow out, but it's not long enough to fall down. So before it falls down, it starts growing up, and you got the puffy period. And thank God we don't have humidity here in Colorado anymore. But on the East Coast, when you had humidity, it really went up there about 6 feet. But you get puffy, and here's the deal. I could deal with the puffy. I don't have a problem with that. The problem is a lot of times I'll take a shower or a bath before I go to bed, and my hair is wet. So when I fall asleep with my hair wet, the longer it gets, when you wake up in the morning, I don't even know what you look like. You look like you ran a hand grenade through your hair. And every morning I got to hear my wife about the way my hair looks. Every morning, first thing when I get up. Meanwhile, I went to bed with it wet. What do you expect it to look like? So that's the period I always have problems getting through. I always have difficulty hearing her and dealing with her. So I always give into the peer pressure, and I wind up getting a haircut. I'm letting the hair go this time. I'm not getting a haircut. I'm going to deal with poofy head. I'm going to deal with all that. I'm going to grow it out one last time and see what happens. Also, a note, I am waiting to go to iHeartRadio. As I told you, I'm going to, get my feet wet a little bit as far as doing some work as a DJ on FM radio. See how that works out. See if I'm cut out for it. They're going to give me a shot. They kind of liked what they saw from the wrestling show. The last couple of days, I've been playing phone tag with the GM of the station, but I hope to get in there by the end of this week, next week at the latest, to see where that goes, and I'm really, really excited about that. Okay, let's turn to a couple of things as it pertains to wrestling. I got to be honest with you. I cut a promo on Monday about the big announcement, the big TNA announcement, which was another, fart in church about a media India tour. It was it was nothing. It was horrible. The reason why I get so hot with these things is I'll be honest with you, because Dixie Carter brings her own problems to herself. And that's very frustrating to me. When you're promoting a big announcement, you're thinking there's some substance to the announcement, and then it's meaningless. It means nothing. Rebel is going on a media tour in India, and she does this time and time again. And I got to tell you, knowing Dixie personally and liking her as a person, it gets me so riled up and so mad because she does this to herself. Time after time after time, she puts her own self in these positions where she loses credibility when there's no reason to do it. So I get all riled up because I know what the lashback is going to be. I know she shouldn't have said anything in the first place. This did not warrant a big announcement is going to be made. So, again, it's the boy that cries wolf. Big announcement. Nothing means anything. Finally, when there's a big announcement, nobody's going to tune in. So I don't get upset because I care, because I got to tell you, quite frankly, I don't care about TNA. I haven't cared about, TNA, in a while. I'm not interested in it. It's not the type of wrestling show I like. So I could care less, but my frustration comes with her and knowing her personally and seeing this habit of making the mistakes over and over and over again. But so I cut this promo, about India and me and my daughter going to the Indian buffet, which did about $4,000 views thus far, which I thank you for. But then yesterday was Dixie's birthday. So I felt really bad about that. I felt bad about the video. But again, I say, listen, I'm an entertainer. I'm here to entertain you. I really don't care about big announcements in India that mean nothing. It really doesn't affect me one way or another, but I got to take the material given to me and I got to entertain. So with that, I felt bad yesterday. It was her birthday. So I offered her birthday wishes, but something else has, come up again that I have to go off on because I don't understand it. Listen, at Bound for Glory, I really think it's terrible the way TNA nickel and dimes the fans. They nickel and dime the fans, though, out of necessity. They need to make that money, $50 here, $100 here, $200 here, whatever it is, in order to cover their bills, in order to pay payroll, this, that, and the other thing. I understand it. So there was a Bound for Glory event on Sunday, and from what I'm being told, and this is from somebody on the inside, so it's not a third-hand party gimmick. It's somebody that was there. Dixie invites, I guess there's a tour of Bound for Glory where Dixie gives a personal tour of the building and this, that, and the other thing, whatever. Anyway, she brings the fans into the building early in the day when the boys are ringside going over their matches. Now, don't get me wrong. She didn't bring them ringside. From what I understand, she was in the stands at a distance, but still during the day, this is a time where the boys go over their matches and you let the boys run through everything and you kind of leave them alone. So now she's letting the fans in and she's actually letting the fans see this process to make $50 a head, $100 a head, whatever it is. Then, to make matters worse, the boys eat together in catering during the day. This is where, again, they get together, they go over their matches, they're talking about their matches, what they're going to do. This same group that Dixie has in the building, she now brings into catering. The boys are in catering, eating, heels, baby faces, talking to each other, going through their matches. And this same group is brought into catering. And the jabrones are now eating with the talent. That would be a great book or a great name for a podcast. The jabronis are now eating with the talent. I got to keep that in the back of my mind. But now the jabronis are eating with the talent. Okay, but here's where it gets from bad to worse. So all that happens at Bound for Glory. Yesterday was Tuesday. Two days later, Dixie's online shooting this angle about, there's a conjunction with EC3 lost the title and Matt Hardy's got to give up the title. She's shooting this worked angle on the internet, like everybody reading it is brainless and is 9 years old and thinks wrestling is real. And again, making TNA and making Dixie Carter and making John Gaborik look totally, totally foolish. But see, here's the contrast, and here's where I have the problem. On Sunday, you're allowing the jabronis in the arena. You're allowing them to see the boys work out the matches. You're allowing them to eat in catering with the boys as the boys work out their matches. You're allowing them to see that process. 2 days later, you're trying to work those same people saying, oh, this is a shoot. There's really an injunction. TNA management is meeting around the clock. EC3 has attacked Gaborik, which is the TNA problem in a nutshell. They don't know what they are. When you can go from one extreme to another extreme, from Sunday through Tuesday, 12 years in to the company, wow. I don't even know what to say. And, now I'm reading online, they're trying to find another network. They're talking about WGN. From what WGN used to be, you used to have to pay them to go on their network. Maybe that's changed over the years. I don't know. But now they're looking for another network. And here's my deal. For what? We're going to go on another network and then another network and then another network. So much needs to be corrected with inside that company that it really doesn't matter. What's the end game going to do? We're going to find another network. We're going to pay our talent. We're going to pay our crew 2 weeks late. We're going to draw the same amount of eyeballs. The creative isn't going to change. The way we do business isn't going to change. Dixie Carter is going to make big announcements that don't mean anything. I just don't know. I don't know when the end game is. Let's talk about the Legends convention in Jersey that I went to this past weekend. First, I want to tell you this. I had gone to England the week before, flown out to England, IPW UK. Did a couple of shows with IPW, then went to Dublin, Ireland, and did a Q&A with 60, 70 great, smart fans. It was really good. I enjoyed myself. I came back for 2 days. I had to turn around and go to this Legends tour. And listen, man, the flight to New York from Colorado is 4.5 hours. So it's not hop on a plane for an hour and get there and it's over. It's 4.5 hours. So I had a couple of days to recoup. I got on the plane. I went to Legends. I landed at the airport at Newark Airport, and I'm waiting for my ride. And Sean Oliver from Kayfabe Commentaries is he brought me out there. I'm going to do the DVD with him. Then I'm going to make a couple of appearances. So I'm waiting for my ride. My ride ain't there. My ride ain't there. My ride ain't there. I'm about 30, 40 minutes waiting at the airport at Newark. Finally, the car shows up. And I got to tell you, listen, you know the deal. It's a wrestler in training picking me up. First of all, I opened the back door to get in the back door, to put my bag in the back seat. I am not exaggerating. In the back seat of the car, on the floor, halfway to the back of each chair, this car is loaded like in garbage. There's McDonald's bags. There's Burger King bags. There's Taco Bell bags. Who knows what else is in this car? But literally from the floor to halfway up the seat, a mountain of garbage on both sides. As soon as I open the door, you can smell the garbage, right? Okay, whatever. I'm going to go along. Listen, I'm not a prima donna. I'm not the guy that drove first class. I'm not the guy that had to stay at the most expensive hotel in Nashville when we went there to write the TV. I was at the Holiday Inn Express. I'm not that guy. But when I'm getting in a smelly car after traveling for 4.5 hours and waiting for another 45, we could have done better than this. No problem. So I put my bags in the back seat. No problem. I get in the car. I'm talking to this student. He's talking to me about wrestling, this, that, and the other thing. Now, keep in mind, this weekend, there was that hurricane going down. I don't even know where, but New York was being affected by this. So it's absolutely pouring rain outside. So it's pouring rain outside, and we get on the highway. And as we're on the highway, this guy, the windshields are fogging more and more and more and more, to the point that on the passenger side, I can't see through my windshield. So I rolled down the window because, you get some air in there, hoping it clears up the windshield. It doesn't clear up this windshield. Meanwhile, this guy I don't hear the defroster going. I don't hear nothing blowing. I don't hear anything. So I said to the guy, I said, listen, it might be a good idea to put your defroster on. The guy points to the control panel, and there's no knob where the defroster controller is. So, in other words, the defroster is broken. So now imagine this. We're in Jersey. It's rush hour. It's pouring rain outside. We're on the highway. It's bumper to bumper, and we can't see out the window. This guy's driving, still trying to look out the window. And I'm telling you, from the passenger side, I can't see 5 feet in front of me. So I look in the back. There's got to be a rag in this mess. So I pull out a shirt, and I guess this was this guy's work shirt thrown in the back with the McDonald's wrappers and the Burger King wrappers and the Taco Bell wrappers. Can you imagine how this guy must have smelled going to work? So I took the guy's shirt. I said, clean off the window on the inside. So he didn't want to do it. He was reluctant to do it because I guess this was his work shirt. So I finally said, listen, clean the window. So the guy took the shirt. He's cleaning the window now, and he's driving like this. He's literally, his nose is up against the glass, trying to get to our destination. It's raining harder and harder. Every 2 minutes, he's cleaning the glass. Finally, we get off at an exit. He pulls over on the side of the road. In the pouring rain now, the kid gets out and starts cleaning the outside of the windshield with the shirt. Finally, I said, you know what, bro? I don't feel safe. I'll be honest with you. You're driving with no defrosters. It's freaking pouring rain outside. I can't see out the passenger side window. So I know you can't see out the driver's side window. Let me out. So basically, I got out of the guy's car, didn't know where I was. He dropped me off at a BP. I found out I was in Elizabeth, New Jersey. And, I had to call, Sean Oliver, the owner of kayfabecommentaries.com, and say, Sean, I'm in Elizabeth, New Jersey. This guy, I was going to die tonight in Jersey. You got to come get me. Sean came and got me, brought me back to the hotel. But, and listen, like I said, I'm not the prima donna guy. I don't care what you pick me up in. I don't care what hotel you put me in. I don't like sitting in a middle seat. That I don't like because I have back issues. That's about the only thing. Outside of that, I've never ridden in first class in my life. There was no private jet when I worked for the WWE. We rode in coach. We got in the back of the plane. That's how we got to the next show. I've been in first class one time in my life, and that's because I was going with Goldust and Marlena to the Conan O'Brien show. They were in first class. They upgraded my ticket so I could sit with them. That was the only time in my life I'm not that kind of a guy. But listen, if you're going to pick me up in the near future, can you make sure the defrosters work so I don't have to get out of a car in Elizabeth, New Jersey in the pouring rain, not know where the freak I am? Let's talk about the convention. I go to this convention, and listen, here's the thing I try to tell you all the time. This is what I hate about wrestling. There's two things. Number one, I go to this convention. A lot of, former wrestlers and people in the business are going to be at the convention. Okay. Here's the two things that I deal with immediately. Okay. Number one, I don't know who I have heat with, because the wrestlers have a funny way of not telling you to your face that they have heat with you. And usually that heat is over creative. It's never over anything personal. We don't like Vince because he did this. We don't like Vince because he did that. it's always the creative. They have the heat with you over the creative. Every single guy you ever worked with should have been the main eventer, should have been the guy on top, and because they weren't, it was your fault as the writer, okay? And they'll never tell you that to your face. You find out years after, okay, I got heat with Duggan, I got heat with Chris Daniels, I got heat with this one, I got heat with that one. Then you try to backtrack and figure out what the heat is, and 99.9% of the time, it's freaking ridiculous, it's childish, it's immature, it's all creative. So I go, so when I go to these conventions, I got to look at the list. I got to look at who's there. Do I got heat with him? Do I got heat with him? Blah, 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 blah. So that's number one. That's number one of what goes on. Me personally, outside of Jim Cornette, that like I won't deal with. I don't know what he's capable of. I myself personally saw him, pull a gun on the road while driving and waving it to another driver. So I don't know what he's capable of. That's why I keep my distance from him. I don't deal with him. If he's at a convention, I'm not going to be in the same place he's in. I don't know what he's capable of. He doesn't think like a rational human being. But I'll go through the list and I'll try to figure out, if I have heat with anybody, because me, quite frankly, I will talk to anybody. I don't have a problem with the Lance Storms in the world or the Hacksaw Jim Duggans in the world or the Daniel. I don't have a problem with these people. If they're going to be at this convention, I have no problem walking up to them. And then at that point, if they want to pick a fight with me, they could do whatever they want to do. The heat's one-sided. The heat is not coming from my side. But here's the second thing that I deal with now. This is a new addition as I get older. The way the treatment of me by the WWE, just trying to wipe my history clean of the company, much like they did with the Warrior years ago and other people after that. If people are still working for the WWE, I don't want to get them in any heat. I don't want to get them in hot water or put any heat on them by associating with me. So like when I see somebody at the WWE that I want to go up to, I want to hug, I want to say hello, the first thing in my mind is I don't want to get heat on them with the WWE. I know how that works. And I know if so-and-so said hello to Vince, all of a sudden they may have heat, with the WWE. So now there's that. So, as I go to this convention and as I got to show up, I got to look to my right. I got to look to my left. I got to see who's around. And I got to process through my head how I'm going to play out every situation, which is so freaking sick and ridiculous. It makes me sick only in the wrestling business. So the first thing I do is with kayfabe commentaries, I go out with Sean and his crew and we go to eat dinner at the hotel in the restaurant, and everything is happening at this hotel, the convention and everything else. So I walk in there and the first one I see, where I know I'm safe, is a man by the name of Blackjack Brown. Let me tell you a little bit about Blackjack Brown. Back in 95, 96, when ECW was still going strong, and ECW and the WWE had the arrangement that they were going to exchange talent. And every time I told Vince that I wanted a talent from ECW, he would go to Paul E. And Heyman would tell Vince that they weren't interested in going to the WWE, which I knew was BS because everybody gets in wrestling to go to the WWE, whether you're in ECW or not. Blackjack Brown was the deep throat. He was the guy that would call me when Paulie said so-and-so didn't want to go to WWE. Blackjack Brown was the deep throat that would call me and say, Vince, the Dudleys are interested in coming to the WWE. Taz wants to come into the WWE. Blackjack Brown would put us together. Once he put us together, I would get a meeting with Vince. That's how we got, Team 3D. That's how we got Taz. That's how I came to the WWE. I've known Blackjack Brown since 1991. If you guys are from New York, in the Daily News, there used to be, I don't know if it's still there. Maybe it was the Post, one of the two, but the Slammer. Every Friday, there was a wrestling column in the Daily News or the Post. I don't remember which one. The writer of the column was the Slammer. His name was Hank Wenicky. He was a writer for the paper. Wenicky wasn't a wrestling guy, though. Wenicky used to get all his information from Blackjack Brown. So this goes all the way back to 91. I've run into Blackjack maybe like every, 5, 7, 10 years, not a lot. And every time I run into him, it's like I saw him yesterday. So I saw Blackjack right away, gave him a big hug. The guy is a gimmick and a character within himself. So, okay, all right, one down, I'm good. So I sit down to eat my meal with kayfabe commentaries and Sean Oliver. And listen, Sean will probably watch this, but I'm an honest guy, and I'm going to tell you the truth. I know Sean's paying for this dinner, quite frankly. So, like, if this were me going out with Amy, and I know, like, Amy doesn't care about the price of the dinner. She'll order a glass of wine. She'll have a side salad, the whole 9 yards. The more my wife orders, the less I can order. So now I got to go through the menu, and literally I'm going down, like, I'm looking at the prices. What's the cheapest that I can live with? Then I'm ordering water. I've got to save on my side because she doesn't care what she orders. But I know Sean's paying for this dinner. So, like, I'm getting what I want. Yeah, I'm not going to go out of my way to order the most expensive thing, but I'm going to order what I want. So I go down, and I order a nice blackened salmon. I think it was a $20 plate. To me, a $20 plate, that's a lot of money. So I'm ordering the salmon, and I'm waiting. All of a sudden, in the background, I can hear Jerry Lewis, and I can hear the voice of Jerry Lewis, and I know that means one thing. It's the one and only Bill Apter. I've known Bill Apter for years. Bill Apter is a treasure in the wrestling business. He's now at onewrestling.com. He also just wrote a book, and he's there at the convention promoting his book. So I hear Apter from across the room. He sees me, immediately comes over, big hug fest with me and Bill Apter. I love this man. Okay, so far I'm good. 2 out of 2. So now I'm sitting there, and Sean's eating across from me, and all of a sudden somebody comes from behind me, and Sean kind of, acknowledges that they're there. Listen, I got to be honest with you. I know I'm getting old, and I know I'm 54 years old. I know I'm not as sharp as I used to be, but I know somebody's behind me now. I don't know who it is. So I turn around, and the person's got like their cap down, and all I see is like a thick beard here and a little beard here. And for some reason, I'm thinking like it looks like one of the bushwhackers. I'm thinking, is that bushwhacker Luke? Is that bushwhacker Butch? Why is he coming up behind me? I don't know them that well. I know the bushwhackers. I don't know them that well. Why is he coming behind me? So, like, as I turn around, I'm trying to process in my mind who it is. All of a sudden, I'm looking, and I realize it's Howard Finkel. Now, let me tell you about me and Howard Finkel. First of all, I had not seen Howard Finkel since 1999. When I left WWE, that was the last time I saw Finkel. Me and Finkel at WWE had a very rich history, and a lot of people don't know this, okay? When I was trying to get into the WWE, basically as a magazine writer, I wasn't the mark, trying to be a wrestler or trying to be a wrestling writer or none of that. I wanted a legitimate job as a writer of the magazine. That my degree was in journalism. That's the job I want. I wanted to write for the WWE magazine. Howard Finkel was one of those guys, I was kind of first put into contact with. Okay. Then eventually, we used to do shows, Vicious Vincent's World of Wrestling, those from the early days, Long Island. You remember that. Vicious Vincent's World of Wrestling. We used to do them live at the Nassau Coliseum when the WWE would have a show there. Howard Finkel was one of the very first guests I had on the show. So it goes all the way back to then. When I started working for the WWE and I would go on the road, Howard Finkel was my driving partner. You got to understand something. I'm not one of the boys. I'm not hanging with the boys. I'm office. I'm writing for the WWE magazine. I used to travel with Finkel. I could tell you Howard Finkel stories driving with him that I remember to this day. First of all, he introduced me to the Dairy Queen Blizzard back in 94, 95. I never had a Blizzard before in my life. Second of all, Howard would smoke Swisher Sweets in the car, which I never forgot. Number three, Howard at times would drive the car with his knees or his feet like a chimpanzee. But he was very eccentric, Howard. But I loved him. I fell in love with this man. I loved Howard Finkel. And that's where it all started with me at the WWE. Howard was my driving partner. And I always loved him, and I thought very highly of it. Now, as I'm seeing Fink in the corner of my eye, this is what's running through my mind. Howard Finkel is a company guy through and through. He's been with WWE for 35 years. And I know how Howard is. Howard would never go against Vince McMahon, would never go against the grain, is a company guy, was always afraid of his job when I was there. And I know 35 years later, he's probably still afraid of his job. So now in my mind, I'm saying to myself, okay, I have not seen Howard Finkel in 16 years. I want to pop up. I want to give Howard the biggest hug I could possibly give him. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't want to put heat on Howard. I don't want Howard to have heat because he hugged Vince Russo and somebody saw him hug. Do you see how ridiculous and paranoid this stupid business is? Then people wonder why I can't stand the wrestling business anymore. So now I get up and I have to wait for Howard to make the move. So Howard sees me. I look at Howard without hesitation. He gives me this big, great hug. As soon as he did that, I was so relieved. I hugged Howard back. I told him I loved him. I told him how much I missed him. We talked for a little while. He introduced me to his daughter and his girlfriend, and we talked about old times. And it was an honor for me to see Howard Finkel again. So far now, I'm 3 for 3. Black Jack Brown, Bill Apter, Howard Finkel. I'm okay. I'm fine. No problems. So we eat the dinner. I go up to the room. I do the interview with these guys. You know, it's about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night now. You know, keep in mind, I went through this whole debacle, the whole 9 yards. We do the interview. We finish like 12:31 in the morning. It was 3 hours with Sean Oliver, kayfabe commentaries. They did a great job. They asked me everything under the moon. Finally go to bed. I wake up the next morning. I got to be downstairs at 11:30 to meet these guys, right? So I get up, about 9 o'clock, and I'm just laying around, just relaxing. I got some time before I have to go down there. I'm watching Roseanne. I'm laying in bed, the whole 9 yards. Finally, my wife calls me at about, 9:15 or so. And she goes, "What, are you sleeping?" And I said, "No, I was just laying here watching Roseanne." She goes, "I thought you had to be downstairs at 11:30. And she goes, I said, "Yeah, I do. It's 9:15. She goes, "It's 9:15 in Colorado. It's 11:15 in New York." So I'm like, holy crap. My watch, my phone's on Mountain Time. It never switched over. Now I got to be downstairs in 15 minutes. I rush, blah, 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 blah. I get down. I go downstairs. I eat lunch now with Sean and his guys. Vampiro meets us for lunch. Listen, I love Vampiro to death. That is an absolute shoot. I've always liked Listen, I like the odd ones. I like the strange ones. I have a history of liking those that are different and stand out. I'm drawn to them. That's who I am. And Vampiro was one of those people at WCW. That's why I put him in the angle with Sting. I always liked Vamp. Don't get me wrong, the ICP and some of the headaches those guys gave me, but that was part of the Vamp package. I've had Vamp on the Swerve. We've told stories, but, I love this man. But when you sit down to eat with Vamp, it's like everything he says, you got to take with a grain of salt. Here's what I think is going on with Vamp. I think there's some truth to his stories, but I think he embellishes them to these like Herculean folktales. That's what I think goes on with Vamp. He's with the Guardian Angels. He's good friends with Curtis Sliwa. The whole thing. He still swears Hakud knocked down the telephone poles with his palm, the whole 9 yards. So I'm eating lunch with Vamp. I have a good conversation with him. What a Walking Dead mark. All he talks about is the Walking Dead. He loves the show. I gave him my word I would watch the show. So now I'm 4 for 4 because Vamp likes me. So I got Apta, Blackjack, Finkel, Vamp. I'm 4 for 4 now, no problems. Okay, now I hear that Taz was at the earlier session. I think the 10 to 12 session. So I eat as quick as I can to go catch up with Taz on the convention floor. I go looking for Taz. I'm asking questions. Where's Taz? Where's Taz? Like a Mickety Mark. I can't find him. Finally, I text him, where the frig are you? I'm looking for you. Keep in mind, I haven't seen Taz in 3-4 years since I left TNA. Taz texts me back, oh, what are you talking about, brother? I'm in my car. I'm almost home already. Taz is one of those guys that he'll drive to the event. He'll do the event, he'll get his money, and then he'll go home. He doesn't want to know anybody. He doesn't want to say hello to anybody. He doesn't want to spend time with anybody. And listen, I got to be honest with you. I'm a lot like that too. But the fact that I haven't seen Taz in 4 years, you'd think he would have tried, to get in contact with me. But no, meanwhile, he's gone. He's out of there. So I miss Taz, probably the one person that I wanted to see, more than anybody when I got there. I love Taz, fellow New Yorker. Didn't get to see Taz. Now I sit down, I start doing my autograph signing. Listen, I have a whole rant about this and about the fans that were there and the people that were there and the comments I'm hearing from the fans all day, and how it pertains to wrestling today. That's a whole other podcast for a whole other time. I want to talk about the convention now. So I'm sitting there, I'm signing. I'm looking around, seeing who's around. In my peripheral, did I say that right? In my peripheral vision, I see Mr. Backlund. Listen, you have to understand something with me. When I see Bob Backlund, like my world stops. When I see Mr. Backlund, whatever I'm doing is no longer important. So I'm sitting there at the table. I'm signing in the corner of my eye. I see Mr. Backlund. You know how you're going to see Backlund. He's going to have the pants, the matching vest, and the white shirt. Whatever he does, that's what he's wearing. I see Backlund. I stop everything, and I go see Mr. Backlund. I approach him from behind. I put my hand on his shoulder and I say, young man, because that's the way Backlund always approaches me, as young man. I saw Backlund. Backlund popped. I popped. I give Backlund a big hug. Listen, I say this to this day. Some of the best promos that ever took place since I've been in the wrestling business from, 91 on, was when I was in a pre-tape booth with Bob Backlund. And I did not write Mr. Backlund's promos. It was all him. And I would literally stand there and tears would come out of my eyes. That's how much I would enjoy Backlund's promos. I took him to spring break once. That was an unbelievable story. So I saw Backlund. I gave him a big hug. Backlund gave me a big hug. He's promoting a new book. Get his book. It's called Backlund. He's got a new book out. Apta's got a new book out. So now I'm 5 for 5 now. I'm batting 1,000. Backlund, Blackjack, Apta, Vampiro, Finkel. I'm 5 for 5. Okay, I'm good so far. So now I go back to signing. I'm still looking around the room. Finally, I have my next visitor, Big Pop. I turn around and who's there? Chyna. Now, I had heard Chyna was signing in a separate room. You know how it works with the big stars. They're not in the same room. They're in a separate room. They can't be in the convention hall with somebody else, with everybody else. So I hear she's in a separate room. I'm trying to figure out where the room is. I'm going to go say hello to Chyna. I'm respectful that way. I don't want anybody to come to me. Listen, I'm in the business because of what these people did. So I was going to go see her on my next break. Next thing I turn around, she's right there. And I said, why are you coming to see me? I'm supposed to come see you. And Chyna looked absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Listen, I told you, man, there were some instances the last couple of months when I was Skyping with her, every couple of weeks. She was not in the best shape. I was worried about her well-being. I honestly, truly was. She was in Japan. I felt helpless. I didn't know what to do. But here she is, as beautiful as ever, sober, straight as an arrow. I mean, just looked like a million bucks. So she gave me a big hug. We talked for a little while. We said we'd catch up for dinner later that night. So I'm 6 for 6 now. I'm on an absolute roll. Signing. Next one who comes up to me, Deborah. I didn't even know Deborah was at the convention. And I listen again. I'm being totally honest with you. Look at how I've aged. Like, I'm an old man. I got like, I don't even know what are these things? Like kangaroo feet. I don't know what they are on my eyes. I got bags under my eyes. I got the gray gimmick. I'm an old man. Okay, these freaking women have not aged one iota. Deborah looked like she looked the last time I saw her 15 years ago. Beautiful, stunning. She's got that great Southern accent still. She came over to see me. Very happy to see me. I got her card. She said she'd come on the show. I told her I've been trying to hook up with her. So like now I'm like 6 for 6, 7 for 7, whatever it is. Finally, Mosh, Thrasher, the Headbangers, they're there. They come over, say hello. They look phenomenal, these guys. They're both in their, early 40s. They look the same as they did back then. They've kept in excellent shape. They could still work today. No question about it. They come over, they say hello. So so now everything's going good. There's no problems whatsoever. Everything's going fine. So now my session's over. I'm going to do some walking around. I run into the Blue Meanie. I love Brian, see Brian, talk to Brian for a little bit. But there are two things I want to do while I'm here. Number one, I know Morocco is here. And I've never told Don Morocco the story of, that I had the idea for the Rock in my head. And I never let anybody know because I didn't want to, I don't want to disrespect him, because he was Don the Rock Morocco. And I also wanted to tell him as a total mark that Fuji Vice, Fuji Bandito were the greatest segments, vignettes in the history of wrestling, 30 years ahead of their time. I also wanted to track down Mike Rotundo because I wanted to tell Mike Rotundo how unbelievable his kid was. And I'm talking about Bray Wyatt. Hopefully Rotundo would pass that along to his son. So I'm out and about now. I find out where Rotundo's signing. I wait my turn. I go see Mike Rotundo, and I worked with Rotundo a little bit. I'm like, I don't know if you remember me. I'm Vince Russo, and I just put over his son to him. I just put over Bray Wyatt to him as a total mark. But listen, I also know as a father, you're very proud when somebody tells you that about your son. When people tell me good things about my kids, it makes me very proud. But Rotundo was one of those guys that still works for the WWE. He's an active agent. So I don't know him that well. So I don't know if he's going to think, it's Vince Russo, blah, blah, blah. But regardless, I had to go over. I had to put Bray. I had to put Bray over. Okay. I also saw in the same room Lacey Von Erich. Listen, I'm going to tell you this. There's sexy and hot and all that. When I was at TNA, I had Terry Taylor pursue Lacey Von Erich. Why? Because I saw pictures of Lacey Von Erich on the internet. I thought Lacey Von Erich was absolutely gorgeous, beautiful. See, I'm not the hot guy and this and that. She's beautiful. I saw Lacey. Lacey popped when she saw me. She greeted me, and she is absolutely beautiful. She is one beautiful girl. Still looking great. Writing a book as well. Another person I forgot to tell you about that I was very happy to see. I'd say, Finkel and this next guy were probably my biggest pops because I hadn't seen them for so long. And I truly love them. And this guy, again, I had not seen since 1999. But it happened again while we were eating. I forgot to mention it in that bunch. But all of a sudden, I turn around and I see Jerry Briscoe. Now, listen, if you know me, you know how I feel about Patterson and Briscoe. You know how much I loved working with them. All that stuff we did in the Attitude Era. These guys were phenomenal. They had no idea how good they were. I loved it. I saw Jerry. Now, keep in mind, I know Jerry's still associated with the WWE. So, I don't want to get Jerry in trouble. Jerry sees me, gives me the big hug. Listen, I got to be honest with you. Jerry Briscoe gave me such a hug that he buried his head in my bosom. It was like that kind of a hug. Jerry's a little shorter than me. He came in for the hug and he buried his head in my bosom. It was like a really intimate hug. And, Jerry hugged me. He was great to see me. I saw him later on. He was sitting next to Rotundo and he took me to the side and he said, and this meant a lot to me. He said, Vince, listen, he goes, I want to tell you. He goes, I don't care about that WWE BS, what's going on with you or whatever. He goes, I will always, always be thankful for what you did to me, and I'll never forget it, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, just so I love this guy. I mean, I love Briscoe, and that meant so much to me, than anything else. The way a guy like Briscoe, the way a guy like Finkel, who is still working with the company, treated me, as I am, with my experience with them and with the relationship I had with them. They treated me, with that respect, and that really, really, really meant a lot to me. So I got to see Briscoe. I got to talk to Briscoe for a while. We had a signing that night. There was a small show. Listen, Colt Cabana was there, and I really wanted to. I met Colt briefly at TNA. I don't even think I had a conversation with him. So I wanted to talk to Cabana there. I mean, he was just on the Mark Maron show, and I'm a huge Maron Mark. I think he did a great job on the CM Punk interview. There were a couple of things I wanted to talk to him about. His merch was out at the table. I never saw him. I never got to see Colt Cabana, so I never got to have that conversation with him. That night, I did go out to dinner with Chyna and the person, Anthony, who's putting this documentary together. I asked her a ton of questions, things I needed answered, things I didn't understand. It was a great talk. I got a much better understanding of things and what they're trying to do. We arranged for her to come back on the show. I'm going to try to make that happen next week. But she said she wants to come back on the show. There's a couple of things she wants to talk about, a couple of things she wants to explain. I want to get out there about this documentary, why they're doing it, what's behind it, what it means, because I think a lot of people really don't understand it. So, I spent a couple hours with Chyna at dinner, and that was great. So all in all, the experience at Legends was a successful one. There's a bigger one coming up now in November that I'm going to be a part of. Some A players are going to be at the next one. So it should be interesting. It's going to be a little bit more different. Shawn Michaels will be there. Kevin Nash will be there. Scott Hall will be there. People like this nature. So it'll be a little interesting to see what goes on there. But, like I said, man, I know. I always tell you, I have no skeletons in my closet. I know what I've done in my past. I know if I treated somebody wrong or disrespectful. I mean, I know all that. That's why, I don't have a problem going to these places. If I did something wrong, and I got to own up, I have no problem doing that man-to-man, face-to-face. However, I never know what's going on with them. I never know what's in their mind. That whole thing. So that's where it gets, a little muddy at times, but thank God, this was very, very rewarding to me. It went very well. Mr. Backlund has already called me since I've been home. He's going to come on the podcast if he can figure out Skype. He's never used Skype in his life, so we're going to try to figure that out early next week. But all in all, that's it. That was the experience, at the convention and everything else that has been going on. Hopefully, I'll talk to iHeartRadio today. I hope to get in there by the end of this week. I'll give you an update on that. Tomorrow, part 1 of the interview with Bruce Pritchard. As I said, listen, I think there was some ulterior motives for him in this interview. That's my take on it. That's my opinion. That's my 2 cents. You can look at it tomorrow, part 1, and decide for yourself. And Friday, Jeff and myself will be back here with Lions, Tigers, and Bears. So again, everybody, thanks for joining me here on Bucket Full of Chicken X. I hope you were entertained. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you back here tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel. Have a great day, everybody.
Critically acclaimed producers Kayfabe Commentaries bring you the most candid shoot interview ever with Sabu, nephew of the legendary Sheik.
Would your aunt be talking business
Of course.
with the Sheik?
Oh, yeah. And Carney. She can speak Carney better than me.
That's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Prepare to explore the darkest corners of the man behind Sabu.
I would have stopped pain pills entirely if I was out of pain. Because I've been a little too long at the dance myself.
You feel now you've been too long at the dance.
Breaking Kayfabe with Terry Sabu Brunk, now available on DVD and on demand at shootinterviews.com.